All right, welcome back, everybody. You are tuned into the Now Morning Show right here on TTT. Now, we're going to be speaking with two individuals about event that is coming up very soon, and that is with respect to World International Literacy Day. This morning with me is Professor Emeritus Kenneth Ramchan, who's the chairman of Friends of Mr. Biswas, and we also have Dr. J. Vijay Miraj, who's a lecturer in literature in English Department, Literary, Cultural and Communication Studies in the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us this morning. So there's an upcoming event which runs from September 21st to 24th, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But first I want to hear from each of you, what is the importance of International Literacy Day? Dr. Murad.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Professor Ramchan.
International Literacy Day is a day that I live and work every day because we are developing as a society where people do not read, people do not understand, people do not think, people do not feel about their right, about the things they are reading. So as far as we are concerned, the sort of landmark International World Literacy Day is an encouragement to us to continue with the work that we're doing in trying to promote literacy in this society.
And Dr. Miraj, what does World Literacy Day mean to you?
So I can pick up right there from what Professor Ramchan was just saying, that this is our field. We work in it every day, and we work in it with passion and very often with minimal reward, simply because we recognize how important it is. If you have had somebody come in to do some repairs for you, for example, and they are having difficulties with reading, you recognize the huge problem that you are facing. And this issue of literacy in our present moment is a very important one to consider, because we already have a problem with the haves and the have-nots. The world is splitting more and more into these two, with a tiny bit. So it's not an equal to, it's a tiny bit at the top who have and the others who have not. And those who are not literate are most at risk in that scenario. And I think that it's something that everybody needs to pay very, very close attention to and work towards establishing literacy for all.
Yes, certainly.
May I just add that by literacy, we don't just mean the ability to sign your name or to read a bill or an invoice, etc. Literacy has many levels. And what I find very annoying in our society is that people can read the surface of your words, but they do not pick up the nuances and the implications, and they don't even respond to the imagery and so on. So we are going to try to dig deeper than merely getting people to be able to read and write and read the papers and so on. We want to have depth reading, literacy in depth. I think that's what we're working for.
Definitely. Now, for the upcoming conference, you are focusing on the literary work of Trinidad and Tobago between the years 1980 to 2020. Why specifically that period?
The 1980 is kind of arbitrary. It could have been 1975. But what we're saying is that since the 1970s and 80s up to the present, there's a whole set of writing by young people. Poems, stories, plays, oral stuff, a whole set of it. And nobody has made a survey, and therefore nobody has even begun to analyze who are the promising writers, what are the outstanding books. We don't know the names of the writers, we don't know the books, we've done no inventory, no analysis, and basic information is required before we can begin to respond properly to these things. And that is why.
Are you referring to like more of the lesser known writers or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The lesser known writers are the writers since 1980. For many people, our literature stops with Naipaul and Selvon and Merle Hodge. But there's a whole set of stuff going on since 1980, which people ought to be made more aware of. And if I might impinge on the time a little bit, the same argument that we're making about 1980 to 2020 is the argument we made in the early years when we said we want to make available to people a literature to which they can respond immediately. The present generation are in a position to respond with immediacy to the stuff that has been written since 1980. And that would help them to read the earlier writers better. So let them cut their teeth on the literature and the fictional worlds with which they are already familiar. Let them cut their teeth there, and then you can get them to go back and read the other stuff. They will train themselves as readers on stuff that is easier for them.
Professor, I want to challenge you a little bit because, you know, we know of the NGC Bocas Lit Fest, and that helps to promote and highlight many of the younger writers here in Trinidad and Tobago. What are your thoughts on that, you know, considering your statement that we do not have an inventory and a survey of the younger writers between the years 1980 to 2020?
Okay.
Yes. So what we're doing is not at all in conflict with Bocas Lit Fest. As a matter of fact, we are in touch with Nicholas and others about what we are doing as well. But theirs is a literary festival. It promotes what is coming out at the moment, and it has a certain structure. But there isn't much of what we are doing, which is the analysis and the looking deeply at what can be achieved through the literature. So that the conference, if you will notice, it's 4 days and 4 days of very different things.
Right.
The first day is dedicated to the creatives. The second day is entirely dedicated to the analysis of the work of the creatives. The third day, and I do like that term that they've come up with for writers and other artists now, because there's so much multimedia, the idea of the creatives. On the third day, however, it's all Ministry of Education, because we want to find out from the students, we want to find out from the teachers, we want to find out from the curriculum officers and educators who have been along in the field about what is happening with the development of a literary awareness in our population. Because Professor Amjan is right, we have all kinds of literacy. We have, including emotional literacy and social literacy, which are areas that can only be developed through the arts, and most specifically through the literary arts. So that's what we're doing. We are entirely different. So I love, though, that we have ended up being like a kind of September to remember,
right,
with the film festival, followed by Bocas Lit Fest, and then right behind we have the conference happening, which is trying to do this immense thing. We also have on the last day, we are having, we had intended to have a real literary tour where we go on a journey with Michael Anthony through the areas that he has represented. Unfortunately, COVID has affected that. So now we're having a virtual tour only on the last day. Because of course, literature is a live thing. It's living in the landscape. So we wanted to highlight that.
Yeah,
So
on the last day, we're doing some excerpts from the movie of Green Days by the River, and some excerpts from Ian MacDonald's novel, The Hummingbird 2, and we'll be having discussions about the book and the film and the book and the film on that closing day. So we are celebrating older writers, as it were, on the last day, reminding the conference that we are not trying to blank the older writers.
Right.
We just want to give encouragement to the newer ones. And may I add something about Bocas? We have gone, I would say, very patriotic in this conference, in that we are not casting our net so wide as to include writers from the other islands. This is a conference about the literature of Trinidad and Tobago. And it is my hope, at any rate, that the other islands would do something similar, because in all those islands, there's the same lack of an inventory. And when I sit down and say, I wonder who are the new Jamaican writers, I happen to know them, but that is because professionally I have to know. But I think ordinary people here don't know anything about all writers. And ordinary people in Jamaica and Barbados and so on don't know a great deal about their new writers. And I hope that the other islands will follow the model that we have set and produce inventories for each of those islands, so that we would then have a composite inventory of all the writings from the English-speaking West Indies.
Right. Well, with that, I want to say thank you very much, Professor Emeritus Kenneth Ramchan, and telling us about the importance of the conference and the way in which you are carrying about it and the analysis of these works between 1980 to 2020 of some of the newer and lesser known works of our literary creatives here in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to thank you as well, Dr. J. Vijay Maraj, and the doctor is a lecturer of literatures in English in the Department of Literary Studies, Literary, Cultural and Communication Studies of University of the West Indies. Thank you both for joining us this morning, and I wish you the very best for the conference.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and I wish you the very best for the conference coming up on the 21st, right up until Republic Day, the 24th. So looking forward to that. All right, with that, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with much more. Stay with us.